This is Jonah from Pyrenees and Sentinels, and you are listening to According to Metal.
It's me, giving some headlines. The metal news you need to know right now.
Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, it doesn't really matter. Biv loves to give head lines in regards to metal. The latest news going on in the world of metal. Biv, what you got this week, my friend?
There's so much news to talk about. This is the time of year when bands go on tour, when we get into heavy release dates. April and May are typically very heavy as far as the numbers of CDs coming out. So there's so much to talk about. But I really want to start with something fun. Now, I don't know how many of you know this out there, but our friend of the show, Lacey Mucklow, is a, what is she called, Jason? What's her title? She's a art therapist? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Is that like the actual... Yeah, something like that, I believe.
Okay.
I mean, I think she has like 18 titles that she has in her actual life, but I think that's one of them.
Right. And so what that led to for her was a book or a career in the, coloring books for adults. And several of those, for those of you that don't know about it, I'm sure, you can email us, we can give you the link to her books. But she's an author of these books where, you coloring for adults, right? And I know, Jason, you have to be asking yourself, where the hell is Biv going with this, right?
I actually am asking that.
Okay, all right. Well, Metal Insider reports that adult coloring books are all the rage right now. And it's probably because, this might be the first generation of adults, the author says, including himself, that's regressing to such a degree that you think we're all going to be afflicted with Benjamin Button syndrome. So, consequently, Mastodon is offering a bonus color-in-your-own vinyl jacket.
Sweet!
And exclusive box of Mastodon coloring pencils with vinyl pre-orders of their new album, Emperor of Sand. And I'm not making that up.
That's cool.
So, as soon as I read that, I'm like, dude, if for no other fan of the show, we have to have this on for Lacey Mucklow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know what's funny about that? It's not only is that cool, but kudos to Mastodon for doing what a lot of bands need to figure out how to do in regards to getting people to actually buy the physical, tactile content. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's not something I can rip and download. If I want that and it's cool as hell of an idea, I have to physically buy a copy of something. And
let's face
it's very outside of the box thinking, and I applaud him for that. Whether you like Mastodon or not, that's a really cool idea.
Well, and even if you're not a huge fan of Mastodon, let's face it, they do have some of the coolest album covers in the metal industry.
That'd be a great one to color anyway. Like, most of their stuff would be really good to color anyway.
Right, exactly. So, but speaking of cool, I don't know if you recall this or not, Mason, but one of the very first reviews we ever did on the show was Last in Line, Heavy Crown. You remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was right after the passing of Jimmy Bain.
Yeah, and it was overall good. A little mixed reviews here or there, a couple tracks I could do without, but overall it had a good vibe to it.
Right, exactly. So, this week, Vivian Kimball confirmed that Last in Line, which of course features Vinny Appice, Andrew Freeman on vocals, Phil Sousa from Ozzy, and quite a few other bands. They are working on material from last year's Heavy Crown debut. About half of it's written already, and they do plan on actually entering the studio in September and it being released early next year. Now, the only reason it's taking that long is because Jeff Pilson was the one who actually produced Heavy Crown, and they were really so happy with it, and they should be. It was a quality recording.
Oh, sure.
That they've decided to wait until he becomes available, which currently he's busy with horror, so it kind of all has to work out so that he can be the producer of that CD. So, at any rate, we're expecting an early 2018 release or so, but they, I know we had asked at that time, hey, are they going to continue on past the tour dates they already had booked? Well, in fact, they are. They're making new music, and they plan on putting it out probably less than a year from now.
Now, did they, maybe I just missed it because I have ADD when you were saying the story there, but I mean, who are they replacing Jimmy Bain with?
Well, that's a great question. They actually, they recruited Phil Sousa from Ozzy.
Oh, okay, so is he a permanent member, or is he fill-in dude?
No, he's permanent member.
Oh, okay.
Right, you may recall they pulled in a couple of guest bassists to finish out the tour.
Exactly.
Because they already had it booked, it was something they had to do. They wanted to go ahead and honor the tour dates. They knew that's what Jimmy would have wanted as well. So they did that, but now it looks like Phil is going to be their permanent bassist.
Very cool.
So,
good, yeah. I mean, it's interesting to hear where that's going to take. I remember Andrew Freeman being the one guy I didn't know anything about, and he's of all the members in Last in Line, he's the one dude with not much of a track record of album releases or anything like that, or things that he sung on or played guitar on mostly. But dude was actually really, really good vocally, and
he was.
I'm interested to see kind of how he will sound the second go around. I believe he probably just becomes a lot more comfortable as a vocalist in the band. So I think it's good. I'm excited for it. I think it definitely had that Dio vibe and a bluesy vibe in some ways. So I'll be interested to hear what the sophomore release of Last in Line sounds like. But their first release was pretty damn good, I think.
It was, and we both agreed at that time that he wasn't a metal singer, but he was a good vocalist.
Sure.
So now that, to your point, now that he's had a chance to settle in, let's see kind of where he goes from here. But now I know that every time we do the news, I know you anxiously await your Motley Crue update.
Yes. Hold on. If it's what you're talking about, and by the way, I know for those of you who are veterans of the show, you're tired of hearing this, but I just want to state for those who may be new to this, Biv and I don't discuss any of these topics involving news whatsoever until we do them right now. So I have no idea where he's taking this, but I did see a story recently about Motley Crue. Was it a DVD release, or they're doing something, aren't they? Is this where you're going with this, or is it something I'm not expecting?
Well, almost, but they are in negotiations with Netflix for an original adaptation, a film adaptation of the group's biography, The Dirt, Confessions of the World's Most Notorious Rock Band. So just in case the book didn't satisfy all of your earthly desires, now you will be able to see a film adaptation. Now this is not a biography in terms of behind the music. This apparently is going to be an actual movie where they're going to cast people to play Vince and Tommy, etc.
See, here's the thing. I'm sure some of these stories are actually really, really good. Recently I listened to Talk is Jericho on Chris Jericho's podcast, where Sebastian Bach was on there. And Sebastian was kind of pimping his book of, it was 18 in Life, some other byline next to the title. But the title is 18 in Life, and it's the stories of what... And, dude, there's some crazy ass stories involving Sebastian Bach that are, laugh out loud, funny, crazy shit. You know what I mean? And so it was a very interesting interview and a book that I'm really interested in reading, actually. I can only imagine Motley Crue's stories brought to life probably makes Sebastian Bach look like it's a freaking REM, tour. It's got to be insane. But at the same time, it's dude, how much more Motley Crue can we take at this point? I don't know. I don't know.
Can you play Don't Go Away, Matt, Just Go Away? Can you play that right now? Because that's exactly what Motley Crue should do, so...
I could if I really wanted me to, but yeah, that's the thing.
Well, no, not really.
I did see that, actually. I did see that article that was out there, and I'm yeah... I read the headline, I read a paragraph, and went, okay, I'm done.
Well, I was semi-interested until I found out they're actually going to cast someone to play...
Yeah, that's the thing. If it was a documentary... You're exactly right. If it was a documentary, I'd be oh, no shit, that could be pretty interesting. If done right, and, you're talking to, if you get, Nikki Sixx involved especially, holy crap, the stuff that dude could talk about. So, I think it'd be really interesting to hear, a documentary, Tommy Lee and Vince Neil and all of like their actual words and taking you through certain things, which I guess the book pretty much did. But you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't really get how this is going to work out well. But who knows?
No.
Netflix, usually original content, they do a hell of a job. So, I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I guess we will. Now, I know, Jason, that we've talked about the band Threshold before, you and I have personally. I don't know that we've ever talked about them on the show.
No, I mean, we've chatted about them, but
right,
not on the show.
And you may recall that I'm a pretty big fan of theirs.
Yeah.
Especially some of the late 90s, early 2000s work when Mac McDermott was, when he was in vocals before his unfortunate passing in 2007-ish, I think. Threshold now has parted ways with Damian Wilson once again on vocals. This was his third stint with him. But he's been with them that entire time since Mac passed away in 2007. So he's been with them for again on his third stint for 10 years.
Right.
So at any rate, who they ended up picking up, which I thought was kind of interesting. But they picked up Glenn Morgan, who, if you're not familiar with him, he was a vocalist in the mid-90s, 94 to 96. So what's interesting to me is they just did a live album where they essentially went back and re-recorded all of Mac's tracks, basically. So kind of interesting, kind of new. What's your thought on that?
Wow. Well, the Threshold I'm more familiar with is around Morgan's time frame anyway. So I guess take me through that. So they re-recorded his vocals? They overdubbed everything? Just like try to record it as a live vocal?
No, what they did is they put out a live, I believe it was a double CD.
Okay.
And all of the classic tracks that Mac did, like Slipstream, probably their biggest hit, they did live. And it was almost like a, hey, Mac's gone, he's passed, here's Damien.
Right.
And it was it kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth just because I was a Mac McDermott fan. And now, interesting, like a year later, they're like, oh, yeah, we're done with him. Now we're going to go back to our very first lead singer, I think he was, maybe second, I'm not sure. But it's almost like they're remarrying their spouse.
That's true. Good point.
To divorce them to remarry another ex-spouse. It's just kind of, it's messy, and I don't really understand it, and I think it's going to be very confusing to fans, but, to each their own. But they're in the process of recording their 11th album, Legends of the Shires, which is set to come out sometime this fall, and then they're going to go on tour in November, apparently.
That would be interesting to see.
Of course, they'll never come to the United States.
No, of course not. Are you kidding?
But speaking of tours in the U.S., though, I do have some news.
What's up?
So, Fates Warning did announce their U.S. tour. Did you see this?
I didn't see this. Are they heading anywhere near us, I'm hoping?
Well, they are. As a matter of fact, on June 24th, they're going to be in Joliet.
Okay.
June 23rd, they'll be in Detroit, Cleveland on the 22nd, Milwaukee on the 25th. So they're going to be all over the Midwest and the Northeast, and that's pretty much, they do have Dallas and Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, but pretty much nothing out west or southwest yet. So
weird, huh?
Yeah, but I'm sure that'll get,
Any idea who's opening up for them or anything like that, or no?
No, they didn't really say at this point, but it doesn't go until November, so they've got plenty of time to fill that in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but
it's one of those bands I've never seen live that I'd like to see live.
Yeah. Well, speaking of bands I've never seen that I'd like to see live, Scorpions and Megadeth.
Oh, dude. Well, you know what pisses me off, by the way?
I know where you're going to go with this already.
The one freaking concert I could go to is Chicago, and it's like, oh yeah, no Megadeth there.
Right.
And I'm like, what? So, I mean, now granted, I just recently saw Megadeth, 6-7 months ago? So it's not the end of the world. But at the same time, it's like, dude, come on. So, I mean, who are they... and it's not like Megadeth leaves the tour